r/AskReddit by Reddit. What are the strangest house rules you've seen in a person's house? I had a friend who, instead of washing the dishes after a meal, just put them straight back in the cupboard. I thought his parents would freak out, but it turns out it was just something they did in their house. Whenever I went over, I always made sure to eat beforehand. Read a story on here that was similar. The family would just put all the plates on the floor for the dog to lick clean before putting them back in the cupboard. No fighting over the heel of the bread. The father once offhand told his oldest children that the heel of a loaf of bread was the best and made them want it instead of the regular pieces. By the time there were 4 kids, sometimes fist fights would break out over the heels. Loaves had been opened on both sides, or loaves were a mess because someone reached through the sack and pulled the back heel out. For a while there was a turn system where the heels were promised to a child for each loaf, but that fell apart when one went to summer camp and lost their turn. One time my friend wasted an afternoon waiting for his mother to come home with a fresh loaf of bread instead of going out and playing. I witnessed fist fights over the bread most people throw away. I slept over a friend's house in grade school one time. He prepared us a bowl of cereal the next morning for breakfast. Not thinking anything of my behavior, I didn't finish the milk. I just never used to. I don't know. He was like, "You are gonna finish that?" Oh, I don't think so. Does that matter? He panicked. Absolutely panicked. I think he put it down the toilet before his parents came back into the room. I don't know what the rule was exactly, but finish your milk or die would be my guess, based on his reaction. I still feel bad about it. I was like 8 and didn't think. I had a friend in middle school, and his dad worked for Pepsi. No one was allowed to bring any Coke products into the house. The first time I went there, his mom told me I could not come in the house because I had a Dr. Pepper. I thought she was joking and tried to walk in, but stopped me and said that if I don't throw that in the garbage outside, that I would have to leave. They were ducking serious about that stuff. Oh my god. My grandpa worked for Pepsi and it was the same. No Coke products in the house. One time during a car ride home, my grandma and I stopped at a convenience store and she gave me some money to run in and grab her a Pepsi. They only had Coke, so I grabbed that, paid, and hopped back into the car. Holy ducking meltdown. She screamed at me the entire way home that I did it on purpose to hurt her and started crying when we got to her house over a Coke. I never knew how serious they felt about Pepsi before that day. During college years, I used to visit my friend during summer months at his parents' house, where he lived at that time. They had 2 odd house rules I'll never forget. 1. We couldn't open any window in the house, even the bathroom window, ever, even if it was far cooler outside than inside during the summer. 2. We weren't allowed to close our bedroom doors at night, so that his parents' cat could have free access to all rooms at all times. This made it difficult to sleep without a breath of air from the windows and the cat walking over us in bed while trying to sleep. I had a roommate that was very particular about her home. She called it OCD, but I don't like throwing around that term. She was never diagnosed and coped pretty well most of the time. She always said she didn't expect me to follow her crazy rules, but I could tell it stressed her out, so I just did my best to remember and follow some of the rules, so she didn't freak out as much. All towels had to be folded the right way and stored in a specific order. They also had to be the same color. I had to hide my towels in my own room because she couldn't stand to see my brightly colored towel amongst her gray ones. All shampoo and soap bottles had to face the same way, with the label facing outward. All cans in the cupboard had to face the same way as well. If the vacuum tracks started fading, it was time for another round. There were times she felt the need to vacuum at 3 AM. All shoes had to point the same way, be with their pairs, sorted from largest to smallest, and should be sorted by color. I can't remember how the colors went. I never got that one right. When she felt stressed at work, she would tear apart the house and clean everything. I couldn't be in the way, so I either stayed in my room or left the house. Her cleaning binges could last 8 hours or longer. She refused to use Tide laundry soap because she believed it left a coating on her clothes because they illuminated under a black light. I didn't have the heart to tell her almost all soap is going to do that. The same night, she turned the light onto the carpet. She was up until 5 AM cleaning all of the carpets in the house. She was also pretty superstitious and hated it if I brought anything in the house that could be associated with the occult. I had to hide a lot of incense, candles, necklaces with charms, and some books. Lord of the Rings would have sent her over the edge. Funny thing is, I'd live with her again in an instant. At least the house was always clean. I was doing a project with a classmate at her house, and on our way to her house we stopped at a store and picked up some snacks. We did our schoolwork and then just kind of played and messed around while eating those snacks. Then her mom came home and lost her absolute poo about the snacks. It wasn't so much that we had eaten them, it was because the snacks had crumbs that had contaminated their otherwise purified home. My friend had to stop everything and vacuum the entire house to get every crumb of snack, then take the nearly empty vacuum bag, the empty snack bags, and the half empty but contaminated bag of kitchen trash outside and ask one of the neighbors if she could put it in their garbage bin. Because not a crumb of that kind of food was allowed on the property in any form after sunset. My mom picked me up, and as I was leaving they were doing some additional purification ritual and my friend was praying for forgiveness for having potentially defiled their home. Turns out they were Seventh-day Adventist, and it was against their code, or whatever, to have 11 foods in their house/property during a certain period of time. I don't remember the exact details, but I remember it was a pretty big thing about how every crumb had to be removed from the property as soon as possible. Family who babysat me when I was young had a rule of no drinking during meals, and I don't just mean soda, juice or milk. No water until your meal is done. This was insane to me because we would be called in to supper/lunch after playing outside in the summer and weren't allowed to drink anything until we sat down and finished our plates. Also, this rule didn't apply to the father of the family who would often drink beer during meals. My great aunt had a parlor room in which all the furniture was covered in plastic and never used. It also had a plastic walkway going through the middle, just a strip of plastic cover, which was the only path you could walk on. She would flip out if you touched carpet. On 2 separate occasions in which I dated women who still lived with their parents, they weren't allowed to have boys/men sleep in their rooms. We could have sex in the basement or elsewhere in the house, make noise and never receive a comment. But the one time I broke this rule with on the women, I got chewed out. We had been dating for several months. I often slept over, albeit in the basement, and she would even sleep with me, leaving her bedroom empty. If he invited you to a party, you had to bring a present. I'm not talking about a birthday or housewarming party where it would be common to show up with a gift, but just a general party. And I don't mean a party related present like booze that might be opened that night, but a present for him. I heard all that from a mutual friend. I don't associate with the guy now, but knew him in high school. I haven't seen him in years, but he was a major D-bag back then. In my house, my father would never allow phone calls after like 10 PM. Didn't matter if it was a weekend, still wouldn't allow it. I could still message people and blast my music with the window open, but no talking, because that would be disturbing people. I lived with my dad and his family for a year when I was 17. My stepmom gave me specific days I could wash my clothes. Fair enough, but also gave me specific days I could have a shower, twice a week. She also said I could only use 1 square of toilet paper for a number 1 and 2 squares for a number 2. I felt unclean for that whole year. I had a friend whose mom required her to sit on the floor. Never a chair, couch, bed, or other piece of furniture. I went to her house once and sat down on her bed and she flipped out, made me get off it, and spent several minutes smoothing the sheets to make it look flat again. I think her mom thought kids are dirty, but the rule was in place, even after bathing and wearing clean clothes. I also have a family member has a no pants dragging the ground rule. In addition to taking shoes off, you have to roll up your pants when you come into the house. Last time I visited, I brought jeans straight out of the dryer, never worn outdoors, and changed into them when I got there. she still gave me dirty looks. My friend's family had a no picky eaters rule that was basically everyone eats the same food, no exceptions. However, I have several allergies, including lactose and egg intolerance, which were much more intense when I was young. One day when I went over, lunch was egg salad, sandwiches and milk. I said something like, "Oh, I can't eat this, I'm sorry. Do you have peanut butter? I'll make my own sandwich, so I'm not a hassle." I was not allowed to leave the table until I finished my plate. Once the other kids were done, they left to play, and I sat there feeling sick, slowly eating it one bite at a time until I was done and allowed to leave. There, don't you feel better now that you're full? That wasn't so bad. I then puked everywhere and had to go home. The smell of egg salad is the worst smell in the world. Thank you for watching Reddit. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more r/AskReddit videos. Share your stories in the comments section below.